On today's episode, I'll be talking about the 1961 original, The Parent Trap, with my sister, Michelle.
If you're looking for a man with no plans or programs, and he always leaves a chance to hold hands for romance, or you're looking for the Luke with an old man or cold hands, creature of the night heads for the spotlight, I'm here to welcome you to Brandon at Random Review, a method when I choose. It's Brandon at Random Reviews.
All right, everyone. Welcome to Brandon at Random Reviews, covering one unsystematically chosen topic at a time. If you like listening to a guy recap and review movies in weekly episodes, then look no further. To keep up with the newest content, you can find Brandon at Random Reviews on most major video and audio platforms, as well as all popular social media sites. If you enjoy this, please like and subscribe. I use listener engagement as a way to convince my estranged parents to get back together after moving to opposite sides of the country and taking one twin apiece with them. Wow, that was a really long one. Okay, so as I mentioned, my sister is on this episode with me, as she has been before. Feel free to say hi, Michelle. So I'm going to kind of go through the cast. Obviously, feel free to chime in as you wish as I go through things. So like I mentioned, today's movie is The Parent Trap, based on the German children's novel Das Doppelte Lottchen, which translates to the double Lottie, because apparently in the original story, one of the twins' names was Lottie or something like that. I don't know. By Eric Kastner, released on June 21st, 1961, with a runtime of 129 minutes. This movie is rated G by the Motion Picture Association of America. Budget, approximately $1.7 million. I was not able to find that in either IMDb or Wikipedia. I had to Google it, and not a very trustworthy number, just so you know. Written and directed by David Swift. He also directed Pollyanna, which also stars the same star as this movie that I'll get to in a second. He also did a bunch of TV shows that are very old that I've never seen a single episode of, so I won't really get into which ones he did. For the composer, the songs, not the actual score, but the songs in the movie are Richard M. Sherman and Robert B. Sherman, and they're known for classic live action and animated Disney movies, including Mary Poppins, The Jungle Book, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, The Aristocats, all of those kinds of things. They're more of the older school music guys for Disney. And then for the score, we have George Bruns, and he did a bunch of Disney animated movies, including Sleeping Beauty, 101 Dalmatians, The Jungle Book, and Robin Hood. Robin Hood is a personal favorite of mine. I really enjoy the Robin Hood Disney version. For the cast, we have Haley Mills, who plays Sharon Evers / Susan McKendrick. She plays both twins. She is not a twin herself. She is one person. And she was in...
I think you said it's Susan Evers and Sharon McKendrick. I think you said Susan twice.
Oh, I legitimately, in my notes, I swapped the first names. So I somehow corrected in my mind the right thing to say for the first. Anyway, so yes, Sharon Evers and Susan McKendrick is correct.
No, you're backwards.
Jesus Christ, I still am reading it. Okay. So
Susan
Evers and Sharon McKendrick.
Yes.
I'm just correcting it in my notes right now.
Yes.
Believe it or not, I actually have it right throughout my notes. It's just with the last name included, it's very difficult. Anyway, so The Trouble with Angels is a movie that Haley Mills was in. This is a childhood favorite of my sister. Well, specifically my sister. I probably tolerated the movie more as it was just played all the fucking time at my house. I can't remember anybody else that's actually in that movie that would be of note. I don't know that anybody, the
Reverend Mother.
Yeah.
She's, I can't remember her name right now, but she was pretty famous.
Yeah. And I kind of figured like she seemed to have that way about her, but I didn't recognize her from anything.
Oh,
Um,
and the bus driving nun, she's in tons of stuff too. But
oh, okay. Yeah, barely. I mean, I own the movie because I watch it every so often, but don't remember jack shit. Um, Haley Mills was also, when she got older, was on the television show Saved by the Bell as a teacher, and I can't. Do you remember what her
oh,
character's name was?
so I have some details on this. So it
Oh,
was actually originally called Good Morning Miss Bliss, which was her character's name. And then it was shifted to Saved by the Bell, and they ended up writing her character off and redoing everything and, kind of focusing on Zach Morris and the gang. But
oh God.
yeah, so that was like it was she was the main focus at first, Miss Bliss.
And wait, how long was she actually on the show? Do you know? Like,
I think maybe only a season and maybe only like a short season. I don't remember exactly, but like
right.
yeah, and I think they would play it as reruns of Saved by the Bell and like as, titled Saved by the Bell, but yeah, technically it was Good Morning Miss Bliss, and then it was also like I think Zach Morris and Screech and Lisa were in it. Maybe not, but Zach and Screech were for sure. And then the other characters came when it shifted to Saved by the Bell. There were other sidekicks, like a
This is,
different
I mean,
guy and for AC
shocking
Slater.
information to get though. Like, I had no fucking idea. And I mean, what a pivot to go from focusing on a middle-aged teacher to all of a sudden being like this
Well,
iconically teenage centric,
I
that
think
kind of
that
show.
was I think that was the deal, right? I think it was never focused on her and they recognized that and like rebranded it to be
All
the
right,
kids
because
to
yeah,
be
it
the
would be bad
focus.
marketing to make it seem like it is what I was thinking it was. So yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that kind of makes
Yeah. I mean,
sense.
I guess maybe a little bit more of the adults, if I remember correctly, than Saved by the Bell was, but still like about the antics of the teenagers. And
Right.
I even think they may have been either like in eighth or ninth grade, whereas in Saved by the Bell, they were supposed to be a little bit older. I don't know. But there was no Kelly Kapowski, there was no Jesse Spano, there was no AC Slater in
Wow.
that version.
Wow, that is shocking. Wow. Yeah, did not even have any knowledge. I would have thought I would have heard of that at some point, but never once have I heard of that. Haley Mills was also in Pollyanna. I know that as the movie that I remember, I think seeing a bit of once when you and maybe mom were watching it and you pointing out to me that it was the girl from the Parent Trap, and that was the extent of my memory of that movie. I don't remember anything about it at all. But Maureen O'Hara is in this movie. She plays Maggie McKendrick, and she was in another childhood favorite, McClintock or McClintock, whichever way you want to pronounce it. They pronounce it McClintock in the movie, but it's like I pronounce it McClintock when I'm saying the name of the movie. She was in Miracle on 34th Street, one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time. And she was also in The Quiet Man, which is also much like McClintock, a movie with John Wayne, but it was a much more dramatic type movie. It wasn't as much of a comedy as McClintock was. Brian Keith he plays the dad. He plays Mitch Evers, and he was in Young Guns, which would have been much later than this by almost 30 years. And I honestly, I tried watching Young Guns, and the acting I thought was so bad in it that I just could not get through it. And I don't know if maybe I was just in a weird mood that day. It was really not a fun watch for me. He was also in The Wind and the Lion. I don't recognize this guy from anything else. Like I remember him being in this movie. He's very distinctive in my mind as being in this movie, but not an actor that I recognize as a person from other things. So um, just kind of running through some of the rest of the cast that are, I don't really have any titles, credits, or anything that are associated with them. Charles Ruggles plays Charles McKendrick, who is the grandfather, and then Una Merkel plays Verbena. Joanna Barnes plays Vicky Robinson, and you'll find out who she is later on. Um, For casting notes, this film was part of a 5-film deal between Haley Mills and Disney, and I guess the deal was that for 5 consecutive years, every summer, Haley Mills was shooting movies for Disney. And honestly, I looked a little bit at what some of the other ones were, but like these live action Disney movies from this era are not like memorable, or like they don't get talked about, I guess I'll say. Like they don't have like as much cultural significance as like the animated Disney movies of this era. Let's see, for the plot synopsis. So I didn't even look at the IMDb version because I knew it was going to be trash, but this is my synopsis. 2 twin girls who were separated shortly after birth, sometime, it's not exactly clear when, as part of their parents' divorce, happen upon each other at a summer camp and plot to get their mom and dad back together by switching places. That's about the gist. I'm not going to get into. I copied and pasted all of these fucking taglines, and I think it might have been a similar story when we did Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, when it's like the taglines of decades ago were so uncreative and terrible that I just can't even get. I mean, there is one that particularly annoyed me though. And this is okay. This is what it says. Okay. Blondes and redheads don't mix. Dear old dad found out the hard way. What is
What?
yeah, that's a tagline from this movie.
Oh my
And I'm
God.
like, yeah, so it's just all these dog shit fucking taglines that don't actually really tell you anything about the movie. And it's like, I think taglines are kind of useless a lot of the time anyway. It's just, they should be better than this, and they should be
Yep.
less generic. All right, so I think, are you ready to dive into the plot of this motherfucking movie, Michelle?
We sure are.
Okay, so I forgot that this movie has this really bizarre opening credits scene with a unique song, like a original song, I want to say, and it's like claymation.
Yep.
And it's like really early claymation before like Rudolph, I think. I can't remember what. I
Or
think
right
Rudolph
around the
was,
same time.
yeah, it would have been like a few years probably before Rudolph, but it's quite odd. And I tried not to think too much about it as I was like watching it, because I was really worried if I started taking notes about everything that was going on in it, I was just going to go completely insane. So like I say, it's got the title song, the Parent Trap song, I guess, and it's just kind of like portraying what's going to be happening in the movie, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, that's what I thought was weird about it, is it's like basically doing a synopsis of the movie.
Right.
But it also, like, what bothered me was that the 2 girls in it are not twins, so it's supposed to be like a parallel sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then because their names are different, all of that sort of stuff. And then apparently it's Annette Funicello doing
Yes.
the song, and the other guy from Babes in Toyland, of which I've never seen because it looks terrible.
You know what I've seen? I have seen the remake of Babes in Toyland from
Hmm,
the 1980s. Do you know who's in that?
sure don't.
Keanu Reeves,
Oh,
your favorite,
yes. Yep.
and Drew Barrymore when she was much younger.
Oh, interesting.
It is far worse than you're even picturing based on that.
Yeah.
But it's really bad. Really fucking surreal and ridiculous, off the wall, stupid shit.
But Annette Funicello was a member of the Mickey Mouse Club, so she was, pretty famous for that. And
I most
household name.
famously know her for being nonsensically referenced like 30 times in the movie Grease, that I don't know why she gets brought up in that movie. It's like, hey Rizzo, what are you doing out without a net? Why is that referenced so frequently? I don't know what it's about. Like, it's like they picked a random name from the era that they were portraying, and they were just like, hey, everybody must have been talking about Annette Funicello every chance they got, right? Like, this must have been what was happening.
Yeah,
and
that's what I always assumed. That in
it had to be.
1950s, Annette Funicello was on everybody's
Right.
mind all the time.
Naturally. So the actual movie kicks off at this summer camp, like I mentioned. It has Sharon arriving in a pretty fancy car. It's pretty clear that she's kind of wealthy, or her family is, I should say. And she has this long blonde hair. It's more than, it's like halfway down her back, I want to say. probably be the length of it. She gets out of the car and the chauffeur hands her 3 separate items. And one is allergy medication, another is insect repellent, and the third is a poetry book. And you know what I was thinking as he was doing this is, hey, you know what a great place would be to put all this stuff is in her fucking baggage with the rest of her shit. Why is he handing this to her?
Yeah.
It's clearly just like exposition to show
Right.
what kind of life she has, what kind of person, all that stuff.
It's also to set the stage of like her grandmother is really controlling,
Right,
because
yeah.
he's saying like, your grandmother said, or whatever.
Right.
But I thought the exact same thing. I was like, why is he giving her all of this stuff? And then she's like trying to like balance it all with her, baggage, and
it was
it's
so
very
confusing.
weird.
So, and I'm sure, so she checks in and she makes a specific point of telling the woman checking her in that she was told to ask to make sure that her sleeping quarters would be well ventilated because her grandmother told her to ask. And it's like to your point, it's the overbearing grandmother, all of this stuff, and it's like they hammer that point home so hard, and within like 30 seconds of each other they're mentioning this grandmother so many times that it's like, okay, we get it, the grandmother is this kind of person. So the woman, I can't remember, I struggle differentiating these women that are running this camp. I can't remember because I know there's Mrs. Inch because it's Camp Inch.
Yep.
But I can't remember who is who because earlier on I wasn't like in tune with what their names were. But this woman that's checking her in shows Sharon around a little bit, and she takes her to her bunk, and then she meets these 2 bunkmates that she's going to be staying with. But shortly after this, she gets in line to get food, and she tells the girls that she's not allowed to eat candy because her grandmother says it will rot her teeth. And I'm like, oh, yes, all right, sweet, thanks. I wondered why you wouldn't eat candy. So as she makes her way down this food line, she encounters a girl who looks remarkably similar to her, but has short hair, which I have noted here is also awful because I hate both of their hairstyles so much. I cannot, like, Sharon's, I might argue is worse. Like,
yes.
it is so, there's so much more of it, and it is just all over the place, and I'm just like, what is this hairstyle she's got going on? I mean, like, I don't understand. But anyway, so Susan is the girl that she sees in line, and basically it's like she's got really close cropped, like, I don't, is there a name for this hairstyle? I mean, it's very short, but I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, because isn't it like kind of similar to the one they always talk about from Rosemary's Baby? What's her name?
Yeah. But it's not a pixie cut. It's not a...
No, it's different. I mean, it is different. It's that kind of shortness, it's like, it's longer than most men would have when they have their hair short, but it's like that. So, basically, so this is what my note says, and I need to have a conversation with you about this right this instant. Okay, so can you imagine for just 1 second just putting yourself in the shoes of either of these 2 girls and legitimately, like, just being at a summer camp, you're already kind of out of your element, and you see a person who not only looks similar to you, and it's like, oh, that's crazy. It's like the exact same looking person. It's not like one of those things where somebody saw somebody and they're like, oh, hey, they look just like you, and they look nothing like you when you see them. Can you, like, do you think that when you saw this person, do you think it would even register that they looked as much like you as they do? Like, do you think that, because they say, like, if you saw yourself out in public, that you wouldn't recognize you because you don't see yourself in those settings, where it's like you're out walking around?
I think that's why they did it like they did, though, where they're across from each other, because then it's like mirror, right? So then it was, whatever. And, then they keep like looking at each other while they're eating and all of that sort of stuff, and, trying to kind of see that. But yeah, And I can't imagine.
Right. So it's like then it shows Susan and she's going back to sit with her friends, and of course all of her friends are like, "Who the fuck is that girl? Like what's going on here?" And Susan's like, "I don't fucking know that chick at all, like I have no idea who that is." And suddenly one of the friends suggests that that Susan disfigures Sharon in some way to like basically like fucking up her nose or something
Yeah, she
to
says, bite her nose off so she doesn't look like you anymore.
yeah, like what okay, yeah, that's a rational response. Like
Right.
okay, so
But also, like, what is the problem that they look alike? Like,
right. And
is that,
there's
it's so weird.
yeah, there's no logic in it whatsoever. But I guess it's like it's just teenagers and,
Yeah.
naturally, whatever their animosity will whatever, at every situation. So Miss Inch, who is the person that runs this camp, introduces this man who runs a nearby boys camp, and this is I get such a vibe from these adults talking in front of people that like I know they're playing up the humor of them being really awkward, but all of them act like
They've
not
never
only have
talked to
they
anybody.
they've never
Yeah.
spoken in front of a crowd before, and like somebody just told them 30 seconds ago that they were going to have to do this. Like they have
Yes.
no game plan whatsoever.
Yeah.
And
Especially
so
the leader of the boys camp that comes up.
yeah, he is just
very
super weird
flustered.
and right. And so basically the whole point is that I think this is the same moment where they're announcing that they're going to have a dance.
Yes, because
And
remember he gets up and he says, "What a crackerjack troop of girls we've got here," and I'm like, "What does that mean?"
it's just it's such a and there's I honestly that is what I love about watching movies from different eras, especially ones like this where it's like, wait, was that a thing people would have said that,
No,
or
I
was
don't
that a
think it
writer's
was.
interpretation of what they thought people would say?
No, I think
like
it was to show how awkward he was. He
Right,
had to
right,
say
and that's
something ridiculous, and
right.
yeah,
That's fair. That's probably reasonable. So Sharon very innocently asks Susan later on. So they're at this. Sharon and her bunkmates are sitting on this dock, and they see Susan and her bunkmates rowing up on a canoe. And like this is a very innocent question by Sharon. It's just like, hey, have you noticed that there's a remarkable similarity, like isn't this a little crazy? And Susan turns this into like basically, let's call this girl who's just asking me a question say that she looks like Frankenstein,
which
even though this
means
is you're basically saying that to yourself too. Like you're saying
exactly
you look like Frankenstein, and it's not clear if they mean Frankenstein or Frankenstein's monster. I assume Frankenstein's monster, but
right,
it
right.
is what it is. But so basically one of the friend that's closest to the canoe is so insulted by these remarks towards Sharon that from the dock she like kicks the edge of the canoe, and the canoe capsizes and flips over, and all the girls fall into the water. Susan and her bunkmates, they fall in the water. So
Dan was watching with me at this point, and he's like, "Yeah, they kind of deserve that."
yeah, they really did. Like, that was the thing is like they were rowing toward Sharon and her friends. Like,
Yeah.
what was
Well,
their game plan?
I assumed it was because they were trying to get back to the dock or whatever. But yeah, they're just kind of in that realm.
Yeah.
Mean
So
Girls
I mean,
sort of situation.
right, and so naturally, it was just like that this isn't over because this is quite the interaction that they have. So that night, Susan and her friends slash bunkmates, whatever you want to call them, they sneak into Sharon's bunk and basically just I can't even so they're dribbling shit, but it doesn't really show a lot of what they're doing based on what you see the next morning.
Yeah, but they're okay. So they're taking giant jars of honey and putting honey all over them. They're putting toothpaste on them, like up their arms and stuff. And then they're stringing strings across the room. Like, okay, how would they have not woken up?
This is exactly what I was thinking the whole time. I'm like, there is no way
Like,
Right. It was the boldest choices of like if you're sneaking around and you've got multiple people, you don't know how they sleep, you don't know how light of a sleeper they are, and you're trying to pull this shit off. And yeah, you're tying these strings, and I guess the whole point of the strings is like to create more chaos when they like wake up and
yep,
like knock everything over. But like in the morning when the counselors go, you know, like everybody gathers outside and they're
they're
like, oh,
doing
who are we going to go? Yeah, they're
inspections.
going to inspect. And it's like, oh,
Well,
let's
and that was
go.
part of the thing that if when they announced the dance at the dinner, they said, you know, tidy little girls or untidy little
Right.
girls won't be able to go to the dance, and so they're doing bunk inspections or cabin inspections. My gosh. And so, of course, Arapaho, which is the tent that Sharon, Betsy, and Ursula, which we didn't get to talk about their names yet, but their names are Betsy and Ursula. We never find out Susan's roommates' names.
No.
But Betsy and Ursula are Sharon's, and yeah, so they go in and do the inspection. But what I think you're going to say is like there are buckets of water when they wake up that trigger and fall on them. There's like sticky shit all over the floor, and I
Right.
don't know what that's from. There's like grass clippings, and like where did they get all of this stuff? Like,
Right. And
how do you
yeah.
get that much string? Like, I can understand you might have some string or, you know, whatever. I can
Yeah.
understand that you might have toothpaste. But like giant things of honey, did they like go to the kitchens and steal those? Or yeah, it
Yeah,
doesn't.
it's very unclear. But yeah, of course. So, you know, they walk in and it's just complete disarray. And these girls are already up, but they are trying their best to clean up their bunk. And, you know, it's just basically the ramifications of this are they didn't keep their bunk clean. And so this disqualifies them from attending the dance. And these girls were, and I say this without exaggeration, they were fucking stoked to go to this dance and they are
Yeah.
furious that they aren't getting to go to it now. And so naturally, you know, it's like, you know, this isn't over. It's gotta, they've gotta, you know, because this does not seem like a tit for tat kind of thing where they,
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
know,
they got.
gave equal, you know, revenge. It was like far exceeding what they did to them by knocking their canoe over. So,
Yep.
so basically, it's so they show the night of the dance, right? And so Sharon and her bunkmates are standing outside of the dance watching everybody having fun inside, and they're all furious that they
Yes.
cannot go.
Yes.
And
And
this one girl, what does she say?
she says, I'm so mad I could just spit.
Which I'm like, what?
Well, that
What
is
is
like,
that?
that is a saying. That is
Right.
something that people would have said, but like, it's just, I've never understood why it's, you know, I would say
What?
something like, I'm so mad I could, you know,
Fucking break that girl in half or
yeah,
some shit.
right,
Like, do
yeah,
something. But
yeah,
spitting, like, what are you
yeah,
getting out of spitting?
yeah.
Is it only an anger response? You know, like, I don't
Or is it
understand.
spitting out words? Is yeah, I don't know. It's very weird.
Right. And
So
so it's safe to say she's exceedingly mad, and so are the other two girls. And they come up with this idea, right? So you don't obviously, you know, it's
you
a
don't know
movie,
what the
so
idea
yeah, you don't know what the
is.
idea is. You just know they're hatching a scheme. And so you see it cuts to Susan, and she's had been dancing with this boy, and the two of them come out onto this deck basically,
Hmm.
and Susan is leaning against the railing of this deck.
Well,
And
hold on. She says something before we get to that point where she's like,
uh-huh.
"Oh, this camp is so juvenile. They won't let you wear perfume or lipstick, and I just can't live without my lipstick." Susan is the tomboyest tomboy
Right.
ever. And like you find out later that like she's very outdoorsy and all of this sort of stuff. So like obviously she must just be saying this to try to impress this boy
Yeah,
from
that's what I was gonna say.
1961. But it's just so ridiculous. So yeah, then she leans up against the railing of the deck, you know, facing inside, so the back is facing into the woods basically, you know, around this.
Yeah, and then
um
of course you can see, you know, through the way they're shooting it with the camera that Sharon and her bunkmates are beneath her under the deck, and they have a pair of scissors. And as Sharon is absentmindedly talking to this boy about whatever, these girls are reaching up and cutting out the back of her dress, essentially. Like they are cutting up one side and then somehow cutting across the top. I don't know how that worked.
Yes.
And then they cut up the other side. And so basically it's this giant gaping opening in the back of her dress that wasn't there before. And of course, you wouldn't feel that. You know what I mean? You wouldn't
No.
feel like the extra breeze. I personally never worn a dress, certainly not at summer camp, and I don't know how things are. I don't know what the wind is like.
Well, let me put it this way. If you like accidentally tuck the back of your dress into your underwear, you may not actually feel it.
Okay.
What happens is like when you walk away, then you may feel that there's like tugging or something. But yeah, it's definitely a thing. You may not, because it's so breezy under a dress, you may not recognize that there's the whole back of it is missing.
Well, see, what I'm thinking is it's not even so much the wind in my mind. It is the dress. It's not like it's a Belle from Beauty and the Beast dress where it's like this huge, wide, huge. Oh, it's like a fairly closely trimmed thing where I would think that with each stride you are feeling a little bit, and like there's so much of it missing that I just cannot. But it is what it's. This is the kind of thing I get hung up on when watching movies that really annoys people, that they can't understand why I get so worked up.
I completely get it. And with this one, yeah, it's definitely worth like considering, but it's only like that for a short period of time before somebody else notices.
Right. So you can see Sharon's underwear and her bare legs behind, if the shot is behind her, you can totally tell that this has happened.
And Dan goes, "Oh my God, look at those underwear." Because they're
they look like Depends. They look like they are fucking.
You may go into this in trivia later, so I'll spoil that. But apparently Haley Mills was so nervous about doing that because what is she, like 14, 15 when filming this? Right. And so she wore a ton of pairs of underwear to like protect her modesty. So that's part of the reason it looks like she's wearing a diaper is because she's got so many pairs of underwear on. But then it's also like the old lady granny panties sort of things where, they're very wide and high, I guess. I don't know. So it's not like your, bikini underwear that you might see. So it's pretty funny.
Right. So I will say her and her date Wilfred go back onto the dance floor because they hear a song come on, and I believe this song is the Let's Get Together song.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Right. So it kicks on and they're like, oh shit, we gotta fucking dance to this. So they go back inside, and suddenly Susan's friends notice that this is going on with her dress. Like they notice it. And of course, they very subtly walk out onto the dance floor and casually hide everything, and so that Susan doesn't get embarrassed by this, and they just walk her off the dance floor, and no one is not at all what happens. They like rush out. They're like, oh my God, they whisper something into her ear, and it calls all the attention in the world to her. She freaks out, and then it's like everybody knows that like something is going on with the back of her dress when they like rush her off the floor.
Which, I mean, I guess to be fair, for they're supposed to be 13.
Probably not.
They're at 13. Fair. That's exactly how you would react. It would be, oh my God, like whatever. So they run out onto the deck and they're kind of inspecting it. And when they turn around, Sharon, Betsy, and Ursula are standing there and say something to the effect of like, that's what you get for coming into our tent and blah blah blah. Right. And Susan walks over and smacks Sharon in the face. So Sharon smacks her back, and then they start like wrestling, and so then it kind of they shift back into the dance, and chaos ensues, and things are starting to fall and all this sort of stuff, and the table with all the food on it starts to fall. I thought I remembered seeing like a whole bowl of like lemons or oranges or something, which I thought was very stupid to have at a dance. And then also, how many cakes does one dance need? Because there had to be like 7, 8 cakes. And then the leader of the boys camp goes to try to save the punch bowl, and the punch bowl just like splashes back onto him and soaks him, and Miss Inch pulls up a cake to try to keep it from getting smashed, and when she does, she lifts it up over her head and it gets stuck on the nose of like a totem pole sort of thing, and apparently that was not supposed to happen, but it did, and they ended up wanting that as a gag.
Yeah, like Walt
And
Disney specifically saw it because they were going to cut it out.
yeah,
Because they didn't want it to happen. And he said that it would be a really big laugh or, whatever. And so
yep.
they left it in.
And so the cake gets stuck, and when she looks up, it falls down onto her face, and so she gets covered in cake and frosting and whatever. And then you shift to they are in kind of like the interrogation room with Miss Inch and two of the other like camp counselor ladies, and they
they're reprimanding them
yes.
for their hooliganism.
And they can't believe that two sisters would do that, and
I'm
they're like, we're not sisters. And like, they wouldn't know that. They've been there for at least a week at this point, and they have different names and, whatever. But I guess Miss Inch, as the leader, is probably aloof and doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah, that's probably
also the thing I wrote down when I was watching this scene was as Miss Inch is getting up, her outfit is awful, by the way. As she's getting up and walking around and talking to them, and basically gets to the point of like, let the punishment fit the crime, which the punishment doesn't really fit the crime.
No.
But anyway, I looked at her and I was like, how long does it take to curl her hair? Because you can still see like the individual curls haven't been like combed or brushed out or anything. So it's just like little like curls all over her head. And at that point, you would have like put your hair in rollers overnight to curl them. And so it just always makes me wonder, like, how long would it have taken? And women did this at this point, right? It was like every night they would, roll their hair, and I'm sure it got faster as time, went by because you got better at it. But I just thought it was funny.
I love the fact that like the idea is that because they're siblings, that they're supposed to be setting some shining example of morality. Like they aren't the most likely to get into a fight.
Yeah.
Right. Because they are more comfortable with their siblings than others. But it's just one of those things where it's just like, okay, I guess that's what we're gonna say here, is that's what we're thinking. So the whole punishment fits the crime thing, like you said, it's like, oh yes, you wreaked havoc on this dance one night and you created a huge mess and you fucked a whole bunch of shit up, and then it's like, oh, for the remainder of whatever amount of time is left in this lengthy summer camp, you are stuck with this other person that looks like you, that you are positive is not your sibling, and you have to spend every waking hour with this person virtually, other than a few exceptions. And
I mean, wouldn't the punishment fitting the crime be like, you have to clean the entire area where the dance was, and all of this stuff, right? Like, you're going to be out with a toothbrush scrubbing the beak of the totem pole to get the cake off from it, and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I do want to mention, because we start getting a lot more of these moments now where Haley Mills is on screen with herself at the same time. And honestly, I remembered it being a lot shittier, and I don't know if maybe it had been like remastered and touched up or something, but I seem to remember like it being really noticeable when we watched this as kids, that they were like, it was like one was like an entire hue darker or something. I don't remember exactly, but it was just like, it was noticeable that they were doing some kind of trickery.
Are really noticeable, but then there's others that it's like much more seamless.
Right.
And like, it was pretty revolutionary for that time. So, for all intents and purposes, like it was enough. Looking at it from 21st century standards is hard, but I mean, even when we were watching this in the 80s and 90s, it was still like pretty impressive. But yeah, there were definitely a few scenes where it was obviously like different lighting or something that
some
wasn't
kind of continuity
consistent.
had not happened. Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, obviously I don't know what the crop of twin actors would have been at the time, but I'm baffled that they went to all the trouble instead of like really seeking. I don't know how much they
Mm.
sought out any
I
twin
think,
actors that
yeah,
could
but I
just
think
do
that
it.
was part of it too, was like they wanted to see what they could do with this. And that was part
Right.
of
It
the
was almost
draw
like
of
the
it.
novelty of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because I mean,
so
it even says like in the opening credits, it's Haley Mills, and then a second later it goes and Haley Mills. Like that was, I think, part of the shtick.
right. And so obviously a lot of this, and I'll get into a little bit with the trivia section, but like there was obviously a body double in a lot of these
Hmm.
moments where it's like it wasn't necessary. They weren't showing Haley Mills's face and they could do it with a body double and she didn't have to shoot the scene separately or whatever. But that goes
Yeah.
on a lot in this movie, especially, obviously when they're both on screen at the same time. So, yeah, basically these two have to bunk together, and when they
Um,
eat, they have to sit at the isolation table.
so then the next thing after they have their interrogation room and she says the punishment fits the crime, whatever, they trek them up to this like really isolated cabin, and
Yeah.
everybody in camp follows them.
Yeah.
And then they do like this whistling song, which I think is like a famous song, but
It's got to, yeah, I've heard in
every
way too
time,
many things.
yeah, but it always gets in my head every time I watch this movie or think about this movie. And yeah, so they get up to their new cabin. You see them eating together at the isolation table and trying not to look at each other.
Which, by the way, it's not just the isolation table. It is a table that also has a giant sign on it that says
Yes.
isolation table, in case
Yep.
you were confused
Yes.
by the other tables with twins sitting at them that are the girls that destroyed the dance. Like, in
Yeah.
case you're confused, this is what's
Well,
going on.
I think every other table was like a big round table that would fit like, 6 or 8 people, but this is just a 2-person table. It's off in the
Yeah.
corner,
And
all of that.
I'm sure until they're sitting in it, it's probably not 100% clear, and they don't want people to
Yeah.
sit in the wrong table. So I guess that makes sense. So basically, it shows them doing things, and at one point, the only time that they're apart, it seems, is like I think it's Susan is
Yep.
showering with
Yep.
her old bunkmates, and she's just bitching about how much it sucks, and all this, it's just so awful what they're having to do and all this stuff. And so it cuts to one night, it's like the two girls are in their bunk,
It's
and
actually in the morning because they talk about going for lunch later. So like
oh
that tells
god,
you, so it's
okay.
like a rainy morning. My question about that is, if I understand that they're at like a 5 or 6 week long camp and they probably don't have activities scheduled at every moment, but it rains places. And so I would assume that there would be things that they would be expected to do when it was raining. Like, I don't
Yeah.
imagine you're going to have a lot of free time.
No.
Maybe an hour a day or something like that. Like, you finish with your activities and before dinner you have some free time, or, you have some free time to go shower or do your laundry or, whatever it is. But like, there's probably stuff you should be doing, but it's raining and they're just like hanging out in their bunk together, which I mean, I guess for the movie, they need to have some sort of time for them to do this, but it just seemed interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's very. I noticed that was a little bizarre because I'm just like, what? I didn't. I never really went to many summer camps as a kid, but like, I know that that's got to be a big thing with summer camps, is that you're keeping the kids busy and you're not letting them
Yep.
just lay about and whatever.
Right.
And so it's storming outside, and as Michelle said, this is the morning. So Susan is hanging up pictures in their bunk, and suddenly there's this huge gust of wind and it blows all these pictures around. And so this is like the breaking of the ice moment between the two of them, where they're not just like not talking to each other and ignoring each other. And Sharon rushes over to help Susan pick up these pictures from the floor, and so like she helps her close the window where all of the wind's coming in, blowing these pictures around, and she starts picking up these pictures. And who is this dreamboat that she picks up a fucking picture of and shows it to Susan, thinking it's Susan's boyfriend, but Ricky Nelson, the classiest of all. I mean, just what a transcending of time that choice was of Ricky Nelson, because like I assume almost no one now knows who Ricky Nelson is, but maybe, like older
Yeah.
folks, but like it's just amusing because she's like, wait a minute, you don't know Ricky Nelson? And I'm like, oh God, like I definitely had no idea who Ricky Nelson was when I saw this movie the first time.
Yep.
But so basically it's pretty clear that Sharon is quite sheltered from
Mm-hmm.
pop culture, and she, we didn't really establish this, but Sharon lives in Boston,
Mm.
and
Well, this is actually where you kind of get all of
you
that
do, right?
information, right? So apparently Susan's extremely boy crazy, which is really interesting.
Uh-huh.
And then they start talking about things with each other, and Sharon gets goosebumps. And they talk about, Sharon's from Boston, and
Well, and Sharon explains that her goosebumps are like almost a premonition of sorts of like
yep,
something huge
something's
is going on.
happening. Yep.
Yeah.
But she just kind of, do you ever, like, I just got goosebumps, whatever, which you find out more about momentarily. And then Susan starts talking about where she's from, and she starts showing her pictures, and Susan's just babbling on. And Sharon's looking through Susan's photo album, and she turns the page, and there's a picture of a man, and Susan explains that's her father. And Sharon asks her about her mother, and Susan's like, I didn't know my mother. And then it kind of flips, and Sharon starts talking about herself, and says she doesn't have a father. And then it stops raining, so Susan goes to sit outside, and
Which remarkably, that fucking step that she sits on that is not
well,
covered is bone dry.
I did realize that, like, she sat way at the back of the steps, so it may actually, from like the eaves of the cabin, may have been
Yeah.
covered. But and so Susan had said, like, her dad used to have a picture of her mother on his desk, but he caught her looking at it, and she didn't see it again. And Sharon
But hold on a second,
explained,
because
yeah,
there's other things that
oh,
another revelation is made that they have the same birthday
oh,
before the
right,
picture. They have
yep.
the same birthday. Each one of them has traded off not having a mother or a father,
Yep.
and it's like this huge setup
And
of like,
that's more of
yeah,
why Sharon is getting the goosebumps. She's like,
right,
there's something going on here. And so she's explaining that to Susan, and Susan's just kind of dense about it, is not seeing any of these correlations. And so Sharon goes and gets a picture from under her pillow, which is apparently where you keep pictures of your family while you're at camp, because they both were
yes,
under their pillow. And then she shows Susan the picture of her mother, and Susan says, but it's my mother too. So,
right.
oh, dun dun dun.
And
They
then Susan's
are.
like, "Oh, now that you mention it, it seems like there was someone else in the womb with me, but I can't really remember too well." Like, it's just how
Oh,
like Sharon doesn't get her goosebumps when she sees a person that looks exactly like her. She
yeah,
gets goosebumps when 8,000 pieces of information that
right.
align. Anyway, carry
Um,
on. I'm sorry.
at this point, I made a note that because I think they're together, and Dan kept coming in and out of the room when I was watching this, and he was like, "So which one's the poor one?" And I'm like, neither of them are.
They're both
They are both
fabulously wealthy.
very, very wealthy. And yeah, so it's just funny. So then the bell rings for lunch, so that's how I knew it was morning. And Susan says she's not hungry, she's gonna stay, and then Sharon starts to walk out, but then she comes back, and they hug, and now they're best friends, and twins, and all of that sort of stuff. They apparently have loved each other their whole lives. And then you shift to them, and they're eating ice cream. Well, one is eating ice cream and one is eating a popsicle. Sharon's
Mhm.
eating the ice cream, and it's with like one of those little wooden spoons that like comes with the ice cream or
Yeah,
whatever, because it's just one
right.
of those little cups. And like ever since I was a kid, I always want those little cups with the wooden spoon because of watching this movie. Like I just thought it was so neat.
Well, and honestly, those, I don't want to oversell this, but those are fantastic. Like I really do remember, like, because I remember when in elementary school we had like field day and we'd get like a box lunch as
Mm,
part of field day, and it came with one of those. It was like
yep.
the little cup with a swirled chocolate in it,
Yep.
and you could eat it with the little wooden spoon that came with it, and it was,
Yep.
I mean, it was way better than it ever had the right to be, and it
Yep.
was just, yeah, but not because of this movie so much, because I don't know if I remembered this part of the movie, but yeah.
Yeah. So then Susan gets goosebumps because she's coming up with an idea, and the idea is that they are going to switch places because they want to know the opposite parent, and
It's so there is one key piece, and I don't know if you're about to say it or not, but so they talk a little bit, and they're both like discussing their respective parents that they've
mm,
grown up with,
mhm.
and both of them talk about like, oh my god, dad's so wonderful, mom's so wonderful, how could these two people not want to be together? And I'm just like, yeah, maybe if you're 14 you don't like understand how that could
Yep.
possibly be, but it's also like, I think at 14, and this never really comes out as much as it should, because it comes out a little bit later, but like the rage of like, if I'm meeting a
Yeah.
sibling that I
Right.
have had my whole life that I didn't know about, how much it would color
Anger.
my
Yes.
perspective of my parents, and think,
Absolutely.
what the fuck is the matter with them? How could they
Yep.
possibly think this is okay to do? I
Yes, and
mean,
let's discuss that a little bit, right?
yes,
Because
for sure.
basically what you're kind of learning here is that I think when they were about a year old,
Yeah.
their parents got divorced, and they moved to separate sides of the, I mean, Maggie is originally, the mother is from Boston originally, so what it kind of sounds like is that they may have been in California together and then got divorced and she moved back.
Right.
What parent in their right mind would say, well, let's just split them up and I'll never see my other kid again. You'll never see your other kid again. They'll never see each other, but this is what's best. Like, what kind of thing is that? Like, I have
And
two cats. I'm not
right.
separating my cats, right? Like,
Right. Yeah, it is such a patently absurd premise. And the fact that it like, I mean, I mean, it's a ridiculous premise as you're watching the movie. It's not like anybody that's watching it is thinking like, "Oh, this is totally
this is
normal. This
reasonable.
happens
Yeah.
all the time." No, it's like, but yeah, as I'm watching it, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I would not think my parents were quite as wonderful as I did before
Mm-hmm.
if I realized they had thought this was okay. And the fact that like it, over the course of 14 years, if this summer camp doesn't happen, these parents haven't had like an inkling to like, oh yeah, I do have another kid out there
Right.
that I don't know anything about and haven't been a part of my life and
And
all of
it'd be
this stuff.
different, I think, if they didn't have money, right? Because it could be one of those things of like, well, I can't support both kids on my own, right? And
Right.
so, yep, you're going to take one, I'm going to take one. That might have been the case if, something happened, but most of the time it'd be that one parent is going to have both the kids and figure it out. I don't, yeah, it's a crazy thing, and we'll, talk more about their weird parenting situation later, but yeah,
But
this
clearly the entire concern that they have in this moment where they're like hatching this idea is they want to get their parents back together
right.
romantically. They
Yes,
don't want to be a part of each other's lives as much as they want that, it seems.
that's
Like it
true.
might
Yep.
be, but it's like not very well pronounced if that's the case. So,
Well, so then
um
they start talking about how they're going to do all this because they've got to basically teach each other how to be the other one. So they cut Sharon's hair into that glorious haircut to match Susan's.
uh-huh. Yep.
They, start making lists. They start talking through, clothing and different things. They, say you've got to bite your nails, Sharon, because dad'll know if you're not. Or, and Susan goes through this list of stuff when they're sitting at the isolation table for lunch one day. And one of the things I noticed that I've never noticed before in my previous 100 viewings of this was she says flat A's. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't really know what that means, right?
So
Like,
I I know what it should mean, and I know what they intended to mean. But here's the thing, and I know we keep having these asides and these moments, but I guess that's the whole point. We're talking about this movie. Haley Mills is from London, and she has a British accent.
No, I think she really does have like an old school Bostonian accent type thing. It is like
But
upper
it also is not
class.
consistent
It's not consistent. It's not like
at
she
all.
speaks differently as
Right.
Sharon than
But
she does as Susan.
You know what would make me 100% love this movie so much more is if she was saying things like, "Oh yeah, I got to go get my car." You know, I got to go,
Right.
you know, if
Yeah.
she was talking like she was
Yeah.
from Southie or something,
Yeah.
I'd love it. It would be
Right.
fantastic. And if she had to talk like that to teach Susan how to talk like that.
Yep.
But essentially, the two of them, it's when Sharon is being Susan and Susan is being Sharon, there's not like a stark enough contrast in the way they're
No.
talking to me
No.
at all. Like it is like it is the
Yeah,
fact
so
that it is that.
the Parent Trap remake starring Lindsay Lohan they were British and American was the difference. So at least
Yeah.
there was that differentiation, which I understood better. But like, the only real thing that they talk about is that Susan needs to say things when she's acting as Sharon, like can't, shan't, aunt,
Right.
instead of can't, shan't, aunt. So, you know, there's that, but yeah, otherwise, and they do well, we'll get into that in a little bit, but so they make all these plans and they are leaving camp, so it's the chaos of that. And the thing about the leaving the camp scene that cracks me up is Susan's old roommate, the blonde, has a freaking skunk in a cage that she wants to take home. And her father's like, no, it's not coming home. And she's super upset and crying. And I'm like, I probably as a kid, when I watched this, I'm like, oh, but she just wants this pet. And now as an adult, it'd be like, no, bitch, you're not bringing a skunk into our house. A wild skunk. No, thank you. Like, not happening. Get out of here. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was
very, very much ridiculous. I mean, it's like a pretty funny bit because she's like bawling about it.
Yes.
Like it's just completely unreasonable that they won't let her do this.
And
but
mom always loved when Susan goes to say goodbye to Miss Inch, and she's practicing basically her can't shan't aunt things, and she says, "I shan't tell my aunt about the aunts, or the debutantes, shall I?" Like she messes it all up, but it's pretty funny that she's like trying to do that. And then when she sees the driver, whose name is Stames, he says, "What did you do to your hair?" And she's like, "Oh, I cut it. It was too hot." And he says, "Wait till your grandmother sees that."
Yeah, and only 8,000 people tell her what her grandmother will do. And but so that's the whole start of it is you get to see Susan pretending to be Sharon going to Boston first, right?
Yep.
So and she's riding home, and I will again aside for just a moment to think, okay, so think about this, okay? You've never been to this house before.
Yeah.
You could tell someone for 6 months exactly what things are like with pictures.
Yep.
And it would barely get you to where you need to be as far as your comfort level.
Right.
Like you're walking into someone else's bedroom that you are pretending is yours, and you have to act like you know what's going on and that this is no big thing.
Yep.
It would be impossible to pull off.
So when she walks in the front door, she talks to what I assume is like the housekeeper, and she says, and I know they've talked through like who's who and all of that sort of stuff, but like they've got to have a bunch of servants in this house. How does she know that this is, I'm guaranteeing Sharon didn't have pictures of the housekeeper.
Right.
And I guess maybe she could have like described her or something like that. And Susan's taking the whole ride there, like going through notes and thinking through things, which apparently the driver can't hear or, you know, is ignoring. So, cause she's speaking out loud through it.
And by the way, it's so maybe it's just because it's supposed to be the kind of people they are. They're very busy, her family, but like it's so unceremonious, her return.
Yes, after
like
5
nobody
or 6
gives a
weeks
shit.
away.
Yeah,
yep.
Right. And so it's like nobody, like she's just kind of like waiting for people to walk up to her and start talking to her, and she's hoping she knows who the person is and she's remembering correctly. And it's just she greets, she greets a few people. She greets her grandfather, and her grandfather is basically, like they're pretty close, they're
Yep.
buddy. The grandmother is more the authoritarian, as we've established. It's like she's telling Sharon how to do everything, and what's good
Yep.
for her and what's bad for her, all this stuff. But the grandfather, he basically just is along for the ride, and he is just the fun grandpa and
Mhm.
whatever.
And I love she hugs him and she starts smelling him and she tells him she's making a memory cuz she'll know he smells of peppermint and tobacco, and that's just very very sweet that
Yes.
she wants that. And then she sees her mother comes down, and like that was one of the Maureen O'Hara just is so pretty, like she's just so
Oh
beautiful,
yeah.
like she comes down and like it just amazing. The grandmother comes in and is like, "Oh my God, you cut your hair," and says, "Are you a boy or a girl?" And as I'm looking at this, I'm like, doesn't the grandmother have short hair? Like, you can't really tell
This
if
is
it's like,
100% what everyone should think when they watch this.
yes,
Isn't this grandmother really being hypocritical of this fucking hairstyle, because she literally has virtually the same exact one but gray.
yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah,
all. It's
right.
like,
Like, because it's not even one of those things where it's like she's got it, pinned up in the back or something. Pretty sure it's short, but whatever. So then, they're talking through Margaret McKendrick's schedule for the day and all of that sort of stuff. And they go up to her room, and Susan, as Sharon, is, talking with her. And she's bummed that her mom can't, go hang out with her. And she says something of like, "Well, I just wanted to ask you how long you would wait before you got married." um and that like shuts down everything. And of course, I mean, is that like a "I'll cancel my plans for the day" sort of conversation? I mean, I do think it's shitty that the day your daughter is coming home from 6 weeks away, that like you can't reschedule some things, but
right.
like
Yeah, like you didn't
yeah,
plan around that at all. Like your
right, I don't
scheduling
know,
did not account for it even a little bit.
yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, basically, that's like the whole thing is like she makes this comment and she just walks out of the room after dropping this bombshell about like how long did she wait until she got married. And
Hmm.
then the mother had already told her that they were going to spend time together on the weekend because that was when she had the time available. And so I think we cut directly to that. It's like they're in the park or something, they're having a
Yes.
picnic,
And I
and the
always
worst
remember wearing like suits to go have a picnic with my mother.
100%, right.
Like full suits sorts of things. Like I understand they would have like been dressed up. It just seems so uncomfortable to be like sitting in the types of things they're wearing on a blanket in the park.
And I don't want to say this cuz I'm not positive, but I think they might not actually be in the park for a lot of this. I want to say it's like
Yes,
maybe they're on a soundstage with a backdrop and
absolutely.
that's
Yep,
it.
yep.
Like, and so
This
there are
is
there are a
early
couple
green
moments.
screens.
Yes. Oh,
Yep.
it's so yeah. And it's like I mean I wouldn't be surprised if it was not green screen and it was like a projected, or like I should say it was green screen. It's just not
Right.
green screen as I
The
think of
way
it
we know
today.
it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
so like it's like there's a
Yeah,
few key shots where it was like probably body doubles that are actually at this park. Like it only shows them
maybe. Yeah.
from behind or something, but like it doesn't look so green screeny in those shots. And they're talking at this park about, obviously Susan is like wanting to dig to find this information out because that's what Sharon made it clear that's really important. They've got to like talk about what the first date was like between their
Mhm.
parents. They want to do something with that and you don't know quite what yet. And basically it's like this really fucking awkward thing where Maggie, the mom, is remembering the date and she remembers the song, and she's just singing, and
Well,
she doesn't do just a little bit of it. It's
yes.
like an entire melody of what the song, and it's like the song must have just been music, no vocals. And so she's just like basically like la da da dee, you know, like
No, I
doing
think
that.
that's actually like the
Oh
song.
God,
Like,
I assumed it was just a
no,
melody.
because there's
but, oh God, that's so much weirder.
well, maybe not, but like there are lyrics to it because she sings those a little bit.
Oh, that's right.
But I'm pretty sure that this was one of those moments that mom usually fast forwarded through.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I wouldn't be
She was,
surprised.
yes, she was. That was pretty typical of, especially in musicals, where if she didn't like one of the songs, she would just fast forward through it. So a lot of the songs and stuff that we watched, I didn't know until much later because she would always fast forward. Like, fuck that. I am not listening to that shit. So like there was one in Seven Brides for Seven Brothers where
For sure.
Millie's singing to Adam toward the beginning of the movie, and she fast forwards through that. And
Right.
yeah.
And well, I mean, like, so the mother talks about the first date. Other than the song, she's talking about how it was one of these Italian restaurants that was like in the basement of a building, or, you know, like in the,
Yep.
what do they call I mean, is it the basement, or they call it like the street level, you know, whatever it was. So it was Martinelli's is what it was called. And, you know, she's just kind of like almost fondly remembering it. And you
Mhm.
don't really know, you're not clear on like, okay, what went wrong then, if that was such a wonderful date and your experience with the dad to that point, you know, it hasn't like tarnished your image of it completely. Like, what could have happened, you know? So it's like you're kind of curious. And
Mhm.
obviously Susan's pretty excited because she got a lot of juicy details about what was, you know, what that was all about.
Yep.
So it's like, so then after they're done in the park and it shows them walking away, it cuts to Sharon. She is arriving in California on a plane, and her dad, just by himself, greets her at the airport. And it's, you know, olden times airports it's just wild to think about what airports would have been like, because I flew on a plane in the 90s and I don't even remember.
Well, I also think it's because of where they're at in the country too.
Yeah,
Like
that
that
probably
they,
helps.
you know, like would have done more outside, like those sorts of things. Cause like I know when we like flew into the big island of Hawaii, it was very similar to
Yeah.
that, where there wasn't like enclosed sort of things like there are in, you know, continental United States. And also they wouldn't have had, you know, probably as many flights or as many planes to try to deal with that and all of that sort of stuff. But
Right.
yeah, it was
And
something I
well, and
noticed.
like Sharon pretty much blows her, like almost blows her
Yeah.
cover
So
multiple
like
times.
she seemed like the smart one, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
because, you know, like throughout the first part of the movie, you know, Susan's the boy crazy one. She seems to just babble and all of that sort of stuff. And Sharon was more reserved, you know, the more Bostonian sort of upper class sort of thing. And like, she's so flummoxed. Like, she, yeah, almost outs herself like 3 times in the first 30 seconds she meets her dad. And it was surprising.
It's like he looks down at her bitten fingernails and he says, "Oh God, you're still biting." And she's like, "You did know!" Like she's way too emotional and
Yes.
excited, and it's like she cannot rein it in at all for this. Like she just does not get it. And so, and by the way, she is like clearly using a British accent in a lot of it. Like I am just hearing a Britishness.
Yeah,
Like,
but I think about it, like if you watch, like think about some of the movies from like the 30s and 40s you've seen, when it's like those upper class sort of New England, they almost sound British. Like it's that like upper class sort of
yeah,
thing.
well.
That's what I'm looking at it as. But
I think what helps for me to have it be more of a problem is she's the only one doing the accent. Like
yeah,
she
that's
is the
true.
only
That's
one.
true.
Even
Her
like
grandparents.
right. I was gonna say my biggest argument is none of her family members in Boston talk as much like they have that
Yeah,
inflection.
that's true.
It's I mean, it's crazy how much
Yeah.
more she sounds. So her dad drives her home.
Well,
And
in the car, So this is interesting. So that car scene, I think, was cut out of the VHS version that we had
Oh,
because
okay.
I don't think that was something that I saw until later. Like either we got an updated version or saw it like on TV or something like that. And that's where she says, my very own father. And he teases her about saying father, and she's like, "Oh, father, father," trying to correct
Right. Another,
herself.
another like slip by Sharon of like not doing what she like. It was so he makes mention during this car ride that he's got something big to tell her, and I guess this isn't a good time to just reveal what that thing
Right.
is.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't tell her. He just says that at one point soon they need to get together and have a little chat, and that's kind of how he leaves that topic. And you're like, oh, okay. I wonder what that could be. And they get to the house, and Susan had talked about where she lived and how it was this, really huge property. They have a lake, they have stables, all of these things. And so, you get there and it is this nice, basically, like, I want to say it's like a ranch on the it's on the lake, and it's close to a lot of really nice mountains and things like that. I mean, there's just like, it's very picturesque when she gets
Mhm.
there, right? She's just really taken by it. And so when she gets there and they get out of the car, she's greeted by a man named Hecky. And then she is greeted by a woman named Verbena.
My entire childhood, I thought her name was O Rabina because with Haley Mills's accent, and she always said "oh" before she would say her name, it like was so mashed together. I didn't know until I was much older that her name was Verbena. Like,
Yeah.
did not, because I'd never heard that name before. Yeah, so and Verbena knows something's off right away.
Right.
She's like,
Immediately. Like, yeah,
which
without
is
a
so
delay.
weird because nobody else so far has had, we've seen Susan go to Boston. Nobody's said, she, anything's different other than her hair, but Verbena immediately. And then
And
the
I want to
dog.
say that maybe this is something I'm just formulating in my head right now. Maybe the difference in the hair throws the
Yeah,
Bostonian
it
family
could
off
be.
enough that it's like, oh, well, I would notice something else, but maybe it just seems off because of her hair. I
Yep.
don't know. And
Yeah.
so, like, her dog, Andromeda, comes up and is like, just reaffirming to Verbena that like something is off about this
Yep.
girl because the
And
dog
of
is
course,
barking away. And
mom was like, that dog wouldn't have known the difference.
yeah, right, because
Like, well,
animals, yeah, they just don't pick up on that kind of thing.
well,
So,
no, it's just like one of those, like, I think she would have looked the same. She was wearing her clothes. Like, there may have been a different smell, but I do wonder, like, how much. But, it's a plot point. You got to have something happening. The house is so cool in a way, but also extremely weird. It's like an
yeah.
indoor outdoor thing where it's like the hallways are exposed to the elements. So basically, like, it's the only
Yeah.
thing I could think of is like Winterfell, right? Where
So,
you're like
I don't
outside going between different
I
areas
was
and
trying to
stuff.
wrap my head around it because it was so bizarre, like you're saying. And I read something, and I think I might mention it in the trivia, but like there was something about like other studios or other productions wanted to know where they shot this because they wanted to be able to shoot in that house because it was so
Mm,
open and it was
yeah.
easier to do the cinematography. But
Yep.
apparently it was mostly not a real house. Like it was mostly
Right.
stages and things like that, so it wasn't
Yeah.
really real. And but it looks, I mean, for as nice as the property is and as wealthy as they seem to be, the house is just very bizarre to me. Like you would just think it
Hmm.
would be seem bigger than it is, and
Well,
maybe
and
it's just
that's,
vast, like it
yeah, maybe
spreads
there's
out.
like wings or different things. I don't know. Like it's very, very bizarre. And then at 3 o'clock that morning, Susan's alarm goes off in Boston, and she runs downstairs and the phone rings, and it's Sharon calling her from California. Oh shit, no,
Yeah, you
they
miss.
have to meet Vicky first
Well,
before,
kind of. So
or he
it
talk
doesn't
about
quite
it.
pan out. Yeah, like so basically it's like they it's like alluded to, and I think Sharon just overhears Vicky's voice
Right.
and asks Verbena about it, like
Oh,
what's
right.
going on with that. And then you get the hilarious Verbena, basically gossiping completely
Mhm.
unabashedly about this woman and what she thinks of her, and then capping it off with, but it's none of my never mind, I don't say a word. Like she just keeps saying
That's
that
her.
it's not none of her business, it's not for her to talk about, but by the way, I fucking hate this bitch and I want her
Yes.
dead, like
Right.
that's kind of the
And
thing.
your dad is stupid for
Right. Right. She couldn't possibly want him for anything other than his money, but I don't really give a shit. It's not really my thing. I'm not really talking about it, but
Yep.
it is what it is. And so that's what spurs it is she hasn't met this Vicky yet, but the cat's out of the bag, so to speak, about like what the secret was the dad wanted to talk to her
Mm.
about and all this stuff. And that's what the conversation is like now she's had the conversation with Verbena. She knows that they are together and it's getting serious. And somehow this has escalated this much. And whatever the length of the camp was, clearly, like there was no whispers
Yeah.
of this woman
Yep. Prior
before.
to, yeah,
Right.
5 or 6 weeks ago.
Which I
Yeah.
mean, if you're, if Vicky is the kind of person we're led to believe she is, then that probably would track with she gets together with him and she senses that he's wealthy and she wants, to get
Yeah. Lock
involved
him
with him for
down.
that reason. Yeah, so it kind of makes sense.
All right. So then the phone call happens. So Sharon calls Susan from California and says, there's a woman out here. And Susan says, but dad wouldn't get serious. And Sharon's like, but he's serious. And, we got to do something. And, I think you got to come back out here. And Susan says the line, well, bust it up for heaven's sakes, follow her wherever she goes and submarine her, which I think is a great line. It basically says like, it's too soon. Like, I'm not coming out there. I'm not bringing mother. They call her mother. I'm not bringing mother out there. I need some time with her, blah, 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 blah.
Right. And I guess now that I'm looking at my notes, it also, all of this stuff plays out before the phone call. It's like she actually does meet Vicky before the phone call with Susan in Boston. So she goes down to the lake, she actually meets Vicky,
Right.
and she makes her little catty comments to her and like
Basically
just
repeating what Verbena was saying in her own way. Yep, that's
yeah,
right.
and so then they have that phone call, and so she does. Vicky gives which I mean, yeah, Vicky. I had to look up ages because like just I could
She
not
looks
believe
75.
Vicky. She looks so much older than like I was like, is she really that much younger than Maureen O'Hara? Even like, is it even possible? And I look her up, and she is legitimately like the actress was in her mid to late 20s, and
Yeah.
Maureen O'Hara was in her like early 40s.
Yep.
And that was, I'm like,
right.
I'm like, if I'm looking at Maureen O'Hara and Joanne Barnes in this movie, I'm thinking Maureen O'Hara repeatedly, like Vicky just does not, I don't know what it is. Like, I just don't think that she looks like as youthful as she's made out to be by everyone.
Yeah, maybe it's like, because her hair looks gray, but I think it's just like the poor lighting or filming or whatever. And I don't think it's supposed to be like blonder or something. I don't know, but it makes her look so much older. Yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah, and so basically the thing I did forget to mention at the end of their, like, not only did Susan tell her to submarine the thing with Vicky, basically to like make sure it doesn't go anywhere, she like basically really didn't want to give up the time with her mother that she was going to have to give up if she acted immediately. And so Sharon is, I guess, like the next day, her and her father are out golfing, and they decide to just plop down right on the golf course in the middle of playing
as
to have
do.
this conversation. Right. And so the dad greatly misconstrues, like he wants to tell her about something, and then she, I think, interrupts and tells him that she wanted to talk to him about something too. And he thinks that she's like wanting to have the sex talk at 14, like she wouldn't have to know a lot of stuff before 14.
Right.
Very astute, parenting by the dad. And so Sharon mentions that she wants to know about her mother, and her father handles this in the worst way possible of like, he can't even wrap his head around why a 14-year-old girl might be interested in what her real mother is all about. Like, why any child would want to know
The parent that
something
they
at all about
haven't.
their mother. Yeah. And basically it's like she's talking about this, and she basically just, he says something to the effect of like she ran off with some guy to, I
Yeah.
don't remember where he says, like to France or something. I can't remember what he said.
Spain.
Spain, that's what it was. And so she's just like, oh, shut the fuck up, Dad. Like, I know that didn't happen. You
Yeah.
just quit your bullshit. Like, I don't fucking care. And she is trying to explain to him that, like, naturally girls get to a certain age, they wonder about their mother if they haven't had one. And it just basically, Mitch finally realizes that, like, maybe they just need to finish up their game of golf because they seem to be on the very last hole. And I can tell you, if I was golfing behind these fuckers and they just plopped down to have their conversation in the middle of a hole and I was waiting for them to go, I would be furious.
Mm-hmm.
But finally they finish up, they walk up to, I mean, it's the clubhouse, the country club, whatever it is that where this golf course is. And Vicky is sitting there with who I guess is her mother, Edna.
Mm-hmm.
And Edna is really fucking laying it on pretty thick, trying to like butter up Susan, well, Sharon as Susan.
Yep.
And she's just like talking about, oh, what a delight this girl is, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, okay, like it's pretty clearly revealed that Vicky is indeed pursuing Mitch for his money,
Right.
leading up to them walking up there.
Yep.
Yeah, like
Yep.
it's the
Edna
mother says that. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember the California's community property law, which, you know, basically says that if you're married, it's community property and is split, versus, you know, other places where it might not be.
Right.
And you do find out later that I think Vicky is from New York. And you're like, there's, you know, society papers and stuff like that. So like, I don't think that was happening as much in California. So it was, you know, much more like New York sort of stuff that she was from. And then after they walk away, Vicky says off she goes to a boarding school in Switzerland, meaning that like when they get married, that's going to be her first thing that she's going to do. And then Sharon and her father go ride a horse. My question is, would Sharon know how to ride a horse?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think she would be quite bad at it.
Yeah. And then she gets back. She's, you know, pissed off, and because does he tell her that they're gonna get married, or like she knows that there's something going on with them?
Like he asks her, yeah, what she thinks of Vicky, and then she does all of this fucking deflecting and dancing around the question like she doesn't know what he's asking.
Well, but doesn't before that, Verbena overhears her talking to herself, and the music is hysterical. Like it's like the soap opera music, and then isn't this where she tells Verbena who she really is?
Well, this is the chain of events. So they go horseback riding, which by the way, they are full on galloping horseback riding, which is much more challenging for someone who doesn't know how to ride a horse than it is to just walk with a horse. Anyway, they get back to the stables. The dad tries to ask this question about Vicky and what Susan thinks of her. And then Susan rushes back and like doesn't really address the question. And when she goes back inside the house, that's when Verbena picks up that something is off about Susan, you know, like that she knows there's even more weird stuff going on than what she initially had suspected. And so Vicky arrives at the house and Mitch greets her, and Sharon is just sitting there frustrated with herself, and she's kind of talking out loud, thinking thoughts out. And it's like so Verbena comes up to her, and basically Verbena's like, hey, you know, your eating habits and a number of other things like the dog not wanting to be around her are really making this suspicious. And Verbena almost lets slip a comment about her seeming like someone else entirely, but stops herself. And then Sharon finally decides that she has to confide in her what's going on as long as she won't tell Mitch, the dad. And so, you know, Mitch splits off from Vicky, and he's trying to talk to his daughter again and try and finish their conversation from when they were back at the stables. And Mitch asks what Susan thinks of the idea of making Vicky a part of their family. And of course, Sharon turns this into, they're going to adopt Vicky and she's going to have a sister because this woman is so young, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
okay. And then it's like he clarifies that he intends to marry Vicky, and Sharon just flies off the handle and complains about how much of an age difference there is and so on. And Sharon very deliberately flips the fuck out on her dad
Yeah.
about the whole concept of what he's proposing. And then in his frustration, as Vicky comes back downstairs, Vicky explains that she will talk to her because women understand these things better, right? And so
Well,
Vicky
I
goes
do love
over.
the before Vicky comes down and she tells her dad it's absolutely revolting.
It's ridiculous. Like, it is. I mean, this is the mildest of age gaps. Like, if she's like, let's say 27
Yep.
and Mitch is like 40.
Yeah. Well, and even if she's probably supposed to be playing her early 20s, really.
Probably.
So
yeah.
it's, more of a 15 to 20 year age gap, but yeah.
And I mean, the gist of the discussion when Vicky does talk to Sharon alone is that basically Vicky's trying to extend an olive branch and say that she understands why this girl would not welcome an intrusion into her life, and she's grown to so used to how her life has been thus far, and all of a sudden this is happening. But essentially Sharon just blatantly insinuates that Vicky is only after her father for his money, and then Vicky doubles down and warns her about playing a big girl's game and asserts that she will marry Mitch and that Sharon will just have to get used to it. And in a panic, Sharon just like fucking knows, like, okay, this isn't some mild thing that is getting more serious than what I realized when I talked to Susan last. This is like a huge deal. And so she confusingly sends this Western Union telegram to Susan in Boston, and it is the dumbest message she could have chosen. And it's not really clear. I believe it doesn't. It just say Alexander Graham 3 a.m.
Boston.
and that's all it says. And
Or
it's
California.
right. And so basically, this is such a fucking awkward moment for Susan when she gets this fucking letter or this telegram, because everybody in her family sees that she got a telegram and they're like, why the fuck are you getting a telegram? Like, what
Yep.
on earth could this be? And she has to like explain away that this message is, what does she say? It's like from some friend.
Yeah, it's a friend of hers that went out on a date with a guy named Alexander until 3 a.m.
Yeah, and it's like, oh yeah, what a great explanation. That totally makes sense. And obviously, it's Alexander Graham Bell. It is, I want you to call me at 3 a.m.
Yep.
And she could have, I mean, of all of the things they would have had to discuss, isn't it like quite possible that they might have like discussed, like, if it's an emergency, this is what I will say to you.
Right.
And you will know that that means this and this, like something. But they didn't clearly think that far ahead. They're also young and they're not.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, so the phone, the phone call comes at 3 a.m. And so what happens is Susan has to sit right at this phone and wait for it to ring one time and pick it up immediately so it doesn't call too much attention. And the grandfather, Charles, is outside drinking a gross glass of milk, and he is just listening in. And it's like the cat is fucking out of the bag that like Susan is pretending to be Sharon, and they're talking to each other, referring to each other by name for no reason. And it's like the grandfather just knows, like, it's just, and
did you say he picks up the phone and like listens in?
He does. He listens.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't say that, but yeah, he picks up the extension, and it's like he hears the whole conversation, and basically Susan goes to leave the room after the phone call's over, and he stops her, and it's pretty obvious that he's like gonna lay it on the line for her, that he knows what's going on, and he calls her Susan, and that's, you don't really see the whole conversation, but that's where it leaves off. And so basically the next day, the grandmother, what's the grandmother's first name? Do you know? I can't remember.
I can't remember.
But he refers to her by name, like the grandfather, Louise. Okay, so the next day, Louise is going through what the family has going on for the day, and Susan, pretty rudely, especially like with as prim and proper as this household is, interrupts her grandmother and spills the beans on the entire fucking situation. And just tells all of them that she is Susan and that her and her sister met at camp and they swap bodies and so on and so forth. And basically that Sharon is in California with the dad, and Charles convinces Louise to leave the room with him so that Maggie, the mother, and Susan can have a moment together. And of course, this grandmother does not want any part of, she doesn't want to recognize that, hey, this is probably pretty important that I allow this to happen.
And this is where we find out, because he says she hasn't seen her since she was 1 year old.
Yes, right.
So that's kind of how it establishes how long they've been apart.
Right. And so basically, he puts his foot down with her and makes her stay out of the room for a while. And so Maggie explains to Susan that she's going to have to return her to her father. They legally decided that this was what they were going to do, no matter how idiotic it is. And that's what they're going to have to do. And so the next day, Maggie's getting around, packing for this trip to California. And it's at no point during all of this, this day that you've had, you haven't been maybe I should look up my ex-husband and find a phone number and
or ask
give him a heads
for the
up.
phone number.
Right. Just, that's true. She could just say, hey, Susan, what the fuck's your phone number? You fucked up royal. This is going to happen. And so she doesn't discuss it. And it's just, they're going to hop on a plane and go to fucking California and reunite these kids. And I guess just whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
Yep.
And
maybe
basically,
they were planning on not telling him, just swapping them back. I don't know.
I mean, that would
weird,
be a little insane. Yeah, but I mean, not as insane as separating your kids at 1 year old. Then what?
The grandpa comes in and basically tells, because you kind of are getting that he thinks that Mitch and Maggie should be together. And so he's kind of in on the plan. And he's telling Maggie that, she has so much courage for basically dressing really frumpy and looking old and not having any, new hairstyle or anything like that. And so she gets kind of pissed, but then she, kind of looks at the drab, disgusting dress she's wearing and the fact that her hair looks like it's from 1895 and asks Susan if she wants to go to New York for a few days.
To
go shopping, and it's well, that seems a little weird. I don't know.
It's that whole piece. It's it's so bizarre. She could have I guess New York. I mean, especially probably in this era, it would have been the fashion hub of the country, but you could probably run somewhere in Boston, I assume.
Well, but also even if you had to go to New York, do you need to spend a few days there?
Right. There's a whole bunch of gaps in that logic, but so basically, so they don't show any of the experience in New York. It just cuts from she wants to go to New York to get new clothes and clearly get a haircut or something, and then it just cuts from that decision to them arriving in California at the house. And so they are just getting out of the vehicle, and it's clear that Maggie, it's they know, the people that are working there know Maggie. They remember her, and she remembers them.
Which is what makes me think that they lived in California together prior to them getting divorced and her moving back to Boston.
Right. And so, Maggie's got her next level glow up, which I mean, she, it's Maureen O'Hara, so she didn't have that far to go with.
Right.
And so basically, and basically it's revealed, there was apparently no revealing of this to Maggie before this, but the cat is out of the bag also about these pending nuptials, the Vicky marriage and all that stuff. She didn't know this, and it seems as though she was quite excited about going out there because she was keen to get back together with him or something, almost that's how much she was motivated. And then the wind comes completely out of her sails when she hears that he's engaged or whatever. And it's like I said, not clear how long this fucking summer camp was, but this engagement is so rapid. It is insane. And so basically Mitch confronts Sharon, who he thinks is Susan still, over her behavior for the last couple of days and tells her that he can marry whoever the fuck he wants to. And she's being very immature by not talking to him because apparently for these last 2 days, she has just not been talking to her dad.
Mm-hmm.
And then Vicky, Edna, and this reverend, they arrive to discuss the wedding. And they're like talking about where they want to have the ceremony. And Mitch runs upstairs and he leaves Sharon. It's so
No,
confusing.
it's actually Susan that is downstairs. So
Right.
It's
right, because they've
Susan.
swapped, right?
Real,
Because she's wearing
real Susan.
She's wearing Susan clothes, and so that's how you can tell the difference in this moment is that she's wearing like jeans and a shirt, and Sharon is wearing like a dress later when you see her.
Yeah.
And so anyway, he's going up and he gets ready in the bathroom that we see that Maggie has been using the bathroom.
Okay,
one bathroom.
Why do they only have one bathroom? Right,
it's
supposed to be this giant house.
It's like, can you imagine the entire, like you have one bathroom in a massive house, and then every bedroom has to surround that bathroom, so you have a door to go into it.
Yeah,
and no one has any sense of privacy.
Directly into Susan's bedroom, and Sharon's laying there, and that was my thing. So Maggie has just used it. I don't know.
And they totally botched the moment of like, he doesn't say to Sharon, hey, I thought you were supposed to be down fucking stairs, like being a hostess, like that was supposed to be a thing. Doesn't say anything. He's just like, oh yeah, my daughter's wearing a different outfit and she's laying in bed now, but I last talked to her and she was going to hang out with those people downstairs. Nope. And so he finds Maggie's bra on like hanging on the handle of the shower enclosure, and he's like, and that's like what prompts him to go into Sharon's or Susan's room and ask her, but he doesn't. He just like stops himself. He goes, no, this is not my daughter's bra. Like, I fucking know it's not. And so it's like, you know that Maggie was just in there and that's why, but he doesn't understand that that's why, because obviously he doesn't know that yet. And so Susan comes upstairs and asks Sharon and Maggie if they want to see Vicky, and Sharon declines because she's like, no, I'm fucking over that bitch. I don't want anything to do with her. And Maggie's like, oh, I want to see her. Like, I want to see what this chick looks like.
And Maggie's still in her bathrobe from getting out of the shower. She hasn't gotten dressed yet.
Yeah, there's no urgency for her to like throw something on, and she's going to go downstairs and potentially be noticed by somebody that she's still in this bathrobe. And so Mitch comes back down and they're like, I guess real Susan and Maggie are like kind of hanging out outside watching everything that's going on as like Mitch is coming back down and getting them drinks and things like that. And it's not really clear how they got all the way outside with no one spotting them.
But this house is so fucking weird that...
Right. They probably took a zip line or some weird thing that this house would have. And so basically Mitch looks over as he's like carrying the tray of drinks that he's made, and he sees Maggie and he sees Susan, and they're kind of trying to hide behind this tree, but they're not doing a good job of it. And he like topples over this furniture, and apparently, what's his name? I can't even remember the actor's name, but basically the actor broke a rib when this happened and kept going with the scene.
Jeez. Yeah.
And I'm like, Brian Keith, is that the name I'm thinking of?
That is,
something.
yes.
Something. Okay, so he's so distracted by Maggie and Susan that he trips over some furniture, drops all the drinks, and then they all come to comfort him. And then he goes outside and he's on the dock and he again sees them. And I'm like, okay, like this time he sees them, he freaks out and he falls into the water. And I'm like, all right, dude, like you lost the excitement. Like you knew that they were there. Like shouldn't be as like shocking and distracting for you to see them again, that you're going to fall into the water.
The way that I took it though was like he saw them and he like wasn't sure who it was. I mean, he knew obviously Susan, but he's like
maybe
looking at it
imagining.
Like, right. Or he thought that like, and then when he's out by the lake, he's like trying to back up to get a better view.
Right.
And then he falls in.
Right. And so I always have the closed captioning on when I watch movies for this. And some of the things I can't remember exactly, but there were some wild fucking things that were clearly unscripted that they were saying. Like Vicky, when he falls into the water, is like going on and on about, oh, how they're supposed to get married and how, he can't be doing this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, he
Oh, I
can't.
missed that. And
Yeah, so it was really weird. And so when Mitch falls into the water, of course he's got to go back inside to change his clothes. When he goes inside to change, he runs into Maggie and she's like, "Hi Mitch. Hi." Like, how's it going? And
yeah.
I'm still in your bathrobe, like I'm just chilling. And so basically Susan and Sharon are like there, and Mitch finally figures out what the fuck's going on, and Susan and Sharon leave the two of them to talk, and they immediately get into an argument almost instantly. And so Maggie eventually, in the heat of rage, punches Mitch in the fucking eye. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay.
Jesus Christ. Like,
right?
that would not happen nowadays. It's a little, no wonder they're divorced. And maybe that's why they had to live across the country from each other, so they didn't.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's probably as good a theory as any. And so she agrees that she's got to go upstairs and change.
Well, she doesn't.
After this,
eventually,
right.
She's trying to look at his eye, and so he's laying on the couch, and she's like over top of him in her bathrobe, or his bathrobe technically, and the Reverend walks in, who is a great character. He's so ridiculous.
Yeah. And he's clearly in love with Maggie. Like, he is just like over the moon about her. And
so
he thinks the worst of like this. She's like on top of him on the couch.
Yes.
It's like
then Mitch explains, like, this is my ex-wife, and there was an issue with the children and whatever.
Well, he also calls her his wife for an extended period of time.
Yes.
Yeah. Then he clarifies it's his ex-wife.
And then Maggie says, I'll just go change into something a little more comfortable. And that's, what their whole argument was, and why he has a black eye. And it was the whole thing. Right. So then Mrs. Robinson and Vicky come in, and the Reverend's sitting there listening to their whole soap opera of Maggie being there and Vicky being pissed about it, and yada, yada, yada. And Mitch is trying to explain that, Maggie's she's very matronly. She's a mother and blah, blah, blah. And you have nothing to worry about. And then Maggie comes down, and, she's in this beautiful dress and, looks, way younger probably than she is, and, whatever.
Yeah.
So
well, and what I love, what my favorite part about this whole interaction is, though, is he's going to let Maggie continue staying there because she's already unpacked.
Yes.
They don't have to make her get a hotel and not stay in the same home that her ex-husband lives in, who is with somebody else now. He won't make her pack her shit back up and get her a hotel. Even if she wasn't planning on it. Like, why wasn't she planning on having to get a hotel anyway?
Well,
like, why was her plan to stay there?
You think about it, like, it would have been a huge house. It's not like it's,
that's true.
That's big of a deal to have house guests or whatever. And, I always thought it was like, well, Vicky, like, it's not that big of a deal. Like,
the other great part is that she walks up to Mrs. Robinson, Edna, and acts like she clearly knows, but she acts like she doesn't know any better, and suggests that she is the woman that Mitch is planning to marry. And then Vicky has to clarify that no, it's her, and Maggie just plays innocent, even though nobody in the room thinks that she actually is innocent.
Yeah.
And so it's, I had to make that note of, like, basically, okay, so okay, this is my note, because this was the moment where I had seen enough of Vicky, and I was like, okay, there's something off here, and I can't put my finger on, because I'm like, I don't want this to sound douchey, but I legitimately did not believe Vicky was quite as young as she was being made out to be. But actress Joanna Barnes was born in 1934, which would put her in her mid to late 20s. during the making of this movie. And Maureen O'Hara, who plays Maggie, was born in 1920 and is 14 years older than her. So it actually tracks. And I think Mitch is actually a little bit younger. The actor is younger than Maureen O'Hara. But it was just like ridiculous. Like I said, but also Joanna Barnes cannot hold a candle to Maureen O'Hara in my book. But maybe I'm just biased in that I love Maureen O'Hara. So Sharon and Susan get Hecky to agree to dress up for some kind of dinner. And you're like, oh God, I fucking know where this is going. And so they really only have one night. That's the whole crux of this, is like they have to do what they want to do to try and get their parents back together no matter the situation, because realistically the plan is for them to leave in the morning. Sharon's going to go back with her mother to Boston, and so they have to try and make something happen tonight. And basically the whole idea is that they have Hecky dress up as a gypsy and play a violin that he doesn't know how to play.
Yeah.
And they're going to recreate their first date at Martinelli's. And they even put the little name placard on the table with like a little, name tent thing. And then like they have the tablecloth and they're going to do like a little concert for them. And which, by the way, okay. So this starts off with Sharon in a very like formal, well, at least in my mind, it looks formal, like a child would wear to a concert or recital or whatever.
Yep.
And she is going to play the romantic tune that we all commonly associate with romantic moments in movies, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Dun 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 dun. Like, what are you talking about? This is the song.
Well, I think
like,
it's just supposed to be a concert, not necessarily a romantic sort of thing. I think it's just, hey, I'm gonna
go
do
ahead
a performance.
And firmly disagree, because I think that it is. The whole thing is supposed to be romantic, but it's not clear, and I'm not criticizing Haley Mills' acting at all here, but I'm saying it's not clear if this was a staged skit by the characters of like her playing this song, and then Susan comes walking out with a guitar, wearing a vest and blue jeans, and interrupting her to tell her that that's not a good song to play, or if it's supposed to actually just be happening. Like, I want to believe the first, but it's probably the latter. It's like, it's probably that they didn't plan this. And
no, I thought the whole thing was the plan.
Oh, okay. Then that makes me feel better. I didn't give them that much credit, and that's probably my bad. But that's so they start to basically go back and forth with their, she's on the piano, Sharon is, and then Susan's got her guitar, and basically they're like dueling with each other, playing music, and it kind of shifts into them playing the song Let's Get Together. And this is the most British, and usually it's harder to hear an accent in a song, in my opinion. But when Sharon and Susan are singing this, like, let's get together, yeah. Like, it's all very British sounding.
It's very British, and it is terrible. Like,
it's really bad.
I didn't realize how bad it was as a kid, because it was just like, whatever. But like listening to it as an adult, you're like, oh man, couldn't they have like dubbed with somebody else singing? Like,
oh God. I mean, and the fact that like that song got to like number 8 or something on the Billboard charts, like that was a popular song by Haley Mills.
In Pollyanna, she sings, and it's not nearly as bad.
Yeah, and maybe it's just the style, because it's trying to be poppy,
and
maybe that's just not her bag. But anyway, so they're playing it, and Mitch and Maggie seem to be enjoying it, and it's pretty clear that they've got like rose-colored glasses on, listening to the music and thinking it's good because it's their kids.
Right.
And so it does seem like, I gotta give them credit, because the actual choreography of both of them playing this song, I know that it's like every fucking music video since the dawn of time has had to like similarly choreograph things like this, but it's like, it would probably be difficult to do this and make it look right to where it seemed like they were on stage together and they were two separate characters. Like, I do want to applaud them just a tad for that, because it does not look bad. And so they basically finish this song, tell their parents to just enjoy themselves, and Maggie points out to Mitch, because he hasn't picked up on any of this because he's a guy and that's not how guys are, is that this whole thing has been a recreation of their first date. And he is, they both just remark about how cute it was that their kids did this to try and get them back together. And basically, they talk about like how it would have to be going forward, because now that these two girls know each other and they've met and all this stuff, they couldn't possibly just separate them again. And so the talk is like, now, it's going to be the 6-month split.
What is that?
That is insane. Like, I don't know what is, like, what would the 6 months be?
Right,
Like, I don't understand any of it, because it's like, don't they have school? Like, how are they possibly going to 2 separate schools? And I don't understand.
The whole thing is very bizarre. And like, they had talked about that, Susan and Sharon, about 6-month split thing, as though it was something that other people had done, which I could understand, I guess, if you were like in the same area, so you could stay at the same school and you just, live with one parent half the year and one the other. But I think there wasn't like enough divorce at this time to like, weekends and on and off
like
weeks
have
and
an
all of that
actual-
sort of
yeah.
stuff. But like, that does not make any sense to me whatsoever for across the country.
Yeah, well, and it doesn't make sense for if you lived 2 blocks down from one another either. Like that, to me, that's still it. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And like you say, it probably was like a lack of precedent and, all of that stuff. So basically, Maggie eventually, like, Susan and Sharon are watching them from the balcony above, which is an odd choice in my opinion. Like, I would actually legitimately want to leave them alone. And Maggie apologizes for some of the things that she said, and she tells Mitch that she wishes him the best of luck with Vicky and that she'll be leaving with Sharon in the morning. And the next day comes.
Why is she leaving with Sharon in the morning? Like, you just said you don't want to split them up,
right?
But they're going back. Like,
right.
it doesn't make sense.
No, and it is, yeah. It's like, yeah. What is your actual plan if you're discussing what the plan is going to be? And it's like, so it's like, it's very clearly just a movie line drawn in the sand where they're just doing it to do it, and they're not actually planning any of it. And so the next day comes, and both of the girls have, like, they talk to each other after they see what was talked about during the date, and they like decide that they have to make some kind of plan for what they want to do. And so their plan is the next morning to come down and greet their parents wearing the exact same clothing and not tell either of their parents who is who. And then they can like basically force them to allow them to have more time. And basically they're going on this camping excursion. Maybe I forget. Maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention. I don't remember. Like, were they already planning to go on the camping trip?
That when they're when Susan and Sharon are first like getting to know each other in the cabin, Susan mentions that after she gets back from camp, they always go on a trek up into the mountains, and that's kind of the thing that they do.
Okay. So that makes more sense. And so they're basically, they tell the parents that like, okay, well, what we're going to do is the 4 of us are going to go on this camping trip together. And at the end of the 3-day camping trip, we will reveal which child is which child. And that's how we're going to play this, because we basically want to see if something works out with what we're trying to hatch here, and like we can actually like, you guys can fall back in love with each other or whatever. And so as they're getting around and basically they're like ready to go, like they are loading into the truck and all this stuff, Vicky is there, which I'm a little surprised. Why was Vicky at the house if the 4 of them were going on this trip? Like, what was she doing there?
Maybe she was just there to see, because she thought it was just going to be Susan and Hecky.
Oh,
and
that's true. Yeah. So like
Mitch going off. So she was there to see them off. I don't know.
And so basically Maggie very cleverly decides that maybe it would be a better idea to have Vicky go in her stead. And the girls fucking hate this idea, of course. And so basically Vicky is reluctant, and Maggie's just like, well, you know what? I'll just fucking chill out here, bro. Me and Verbena gonna have some Kahlua, whatever. And like, so basically that's what they do, is like they're going to go with Vicky and Mitch instead of Maggie and Mitch.
on this, I was like, and I know I've thought this before, but it was really in this viewing, I was like, wouldn't they have put up a fight? Like the whole point was the
Yeah.
four of them as a family together
Right.
going.
They didn't
like,
even use their leverage. Like
Yeah.
they're like, well, guess what? If we have to fucking go with bitch ass Vicky, I'm
Right.
not fucking telling you who I am, and we can just stay here forever. How's that sound? Like they don't put up the fight. But I want to say, and this is just a theory I'm concocting, that maybe there was a look or something I missed of like Maggie was like, hey, like wink, I'm going to have Vicky go with you guys because I know you will fuck her life up if you have this
I don't
time with
know.
her. I don't buy that that's really a thing, but I'm just saying there had to be some
Well,
logic.
no.
Because, yeah, they
If
don't
she
fight.
knew, I think
Well, she knew.
Maggie
Yeah, she knew. But
what
she
was going to
didn't. She didn't
happen.
hint
But
to the girls that was what she was like thinking. Yeah.
yeah.
So basically, they go and just so basically, this is the beginning of Susan and Sharon incessantly messing with Vicky for the duration of this camping trip of like basically they know because Maggie used to be, it sounds like similar of like she wasn't the big outdoorsy type.
Yep.
And basically Vicky, it's pretty clear she's not the outdoorsy type either. She doesn't do well with wildlife. She's not familiar with any of those kinds of things. And so basically there are a few things, not to labor the whole extent of what they're doing with her, but like, so first I might have the order wrong on this because I think I had to go back and add some stuff, but like first they plant a tree lizard on a canteen to horrify Vicky. As she takes a sip from the canteen, she sees this lizard and freaks the fuck out, and they make fun of her for having such a reaction to such a small little creature. And then they convince her that an effective way to keep mountain lions away is to bang two sticks together repeatedly wherever she goes. And this woman, bless her heart, is so willing to believe these girls that she knows hate her.
Right.
And everything that they're telling her. And then another thing that they do is they give her something that they tell her is mosquito repellent. And we later find out what it really is, but she's been putting this mosquito repellent on to not get bit too much. And so this one prank really confuses me. And it is Vicky's complaining to Mitch. She's sitting near, like, just at their campsite, and she's complaining about how much her feet hurt from walking all day. And Mitch just says, oh, why don't you go down to the fucking lake and walk in the water and it'll cool your feet off and it'll feel good. And she's like, oh yeah, you know what? That's a fucking good idea. And so she goes down to the lake and she sees Susan and Sharon playing around in their 1960s swimming suits with their fucking shower caps on or whatever you want to call them.
Swimming caps.
Swim caps. So for some reason, this entire scheme does not make sense. But okay, so what they do is one girl or the other stands on the other one's shoulders and is out pretty far into the lake and is trying to convince Vicky that the water is much more shallow than it seems. But in reality, it's obviously very deep because she's standing on her sister's shoulders. And for some reason, Vicky's like, oh yeah, I only came here to get my feet wet. I definitely want to buy into walking and being closer to these girls that, like I say, she knows hates her guts. And so she walks out and there's this like steep drop off that she, just basically falls into the water and she's not wearing a swimsuit and all this stuff. So it's like they're cracking up and like there's this effects shot when the girl is standing on her sister's shoulders and you can see the sister under the water holding her breath with the feet on her shoulders and a fish swims by and it's like, oh God, that was necessary. I mean, it was necessary to show, it's like a humorous shot for the audience, but it was very weird looking and the fish effect was a little odd. But it's like, why, if Vicky was just trying to soak her feet, was she at all interested in going farther into the lake than she had to go? So Mitch and Hecky have to rescue Vicky because she's about to drown because maybe she doesn't know how to swim. Who knows? And that night around the campfire, they're all eating trout, but Vicky says that she absolutely hates trout and that she'll wait until they eat breakfast in the morning. She asks what breakfast is, and Hecky reveals that it's also trout. And so basically Vicky is so openly pissy with Mitch, and he is so irritated with her because she did insist on coming with them, even though she was kind of coerced also.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it wasn't like she wasn't really that eager to go with them. She was really just not eager to have Maggie go with them.
Yep.
And so Vicky explains that Maggie tricked her somehow, and Mitch laughs and says she sure did. And of course, the girls fucking love this, but Vicky sees how much they're enjoying the concept, and Hecky offers to take her back to the house. And she declines that offer and says she'll stick with it. And she complains about the ridiculous amount of mosquitoes. And Mitch asks to see what she's using for mosquito repellent, and it looks like a bottle of suntan lotion. Like, it does not look like what we would consider a normal, but I don't know what it was coming in the 60s. And so Mitch looks at the bottle and he like gets a little on his hand and like smells it, and he's like, this is like sugar and water. Like, every mosquito for 50 miles is going to want to come and bite you when you have this on. And she is just furious. Like, she is just so fucking mad. And then she decides she's just going to go to bed for the night, and she's banging sticks together on her way back to the tent. And Mitch is like, what the fuck are you doing? And she's like, it dawns on her as she goes, she's like, oh, I was keeping the mountain lions away. And she's like, that doesn't keep mountain lions away, does it? And he goes, nope, not at all. so Mitch kind of scolds the girls.
Yeah, well, he's trying not to laugh.
Right. He's cracking up, and he's like, yeah, you really shouldn't fucking do that, but it's pretty funny. Anyway, so basically him and Hecky are cracking up, and then that night, Sharon and Susan sneak into Vicky's tent and essentially do what Susan did to Sharon at camp, or Sharon and her bunkmates at camp, which is put honey on her feet, and they tie strings all across her tent and all this stuff. And the next morning, Vicky awakens to find these two cute little black bear cubs licking the honey off of her feet, and she just begins screaming bloody murder, and Vicky just proceeds to go completely mental as she storms out of her tent screaming about how much she hates it. And Hecky attempts to diffuse her screaming by pointing out that it was just two little bear cubs, and she screams at him.
Dan,
like she's so mad. What were you
Dan said he's like, yeah, but mom is not far away, like that is scary. I'm like, yeah, true. But they're adorable.
That is scary. And so Sharon and Susan just like, basically Vicky says she does want to be taken back home, and Sharon and Susan enthusiastically offer her clothes, and she asks them if they share everything, and so she slaps one of the girls and tells her to give her half of it to the other girl. And I was like, okay, like, that's very theatrical of you. And so basically Mitch calls her out for hitting one of the girls and says it's uncalled for, and Vicky just storms off in anger. And honestly, I was shocked because like, this movie is longer than I remembered it being.
Oh my gosh, it's so long. I had to watch
2
it
hours
over.
It's so long. And so like, I was like looking, and I'm like, there's like less than 10 minutes left in the actual, like, I know there's not as much for credits at the end of these movies, but like, there's less than 10 minutes, and they are just getting back to Maggie at home. And Vicky's already gone. And basically Maggie has sent Verbena home for the night, and the girls are taking their baths or whatever the fuck, going to bed. And so basically Susan and Sharon have, they did apologize initially when they came in, and they're like, basically that it's not their business who he marries, but they recognize that they fucked it up pretty bad.
She says, I guess you could say we submarined her.
And so
great.
Mitch has this like very visceral reaction to this, like the whole thing. And so he comes back downstairs, like he goes upstairs because he realizes like, hey, no one else is here, but the girls are, they're going upstairs. And so he rushes upstairs. He's going to get ready. He's going to shave. He's going to put on something nice. And he gets his clothes on, and he walks by the daughter's bedroom door, and they like, whistle at him or whatever, and mention how nice he looks. And he closes the door and goes down. And yeah, he proceeds to have a very lengthy conversation with Maggie, and he just, mentions that he misses her, and it's all really sappy but very flirty type stuff that you wouldn't just say to somebody. And eventually they seem to agree that maybe their differences are what makes things interesting, like the arguments they get into and things like that, and it's just kind of keeping them lively and leaving it more exciting. So basically they're like they kind of agree that if they don't get back together, they're going to wind up a couple of like lonely old souls or something. I don't know. I mean, it's all, I mean, at this point, like there's not any time for it to be leading anywhere else or to have any
Right.
more hangups. You're just like, yeah, I know they've got to get back together. And so they kiss and all that shit. And suddenly the girls wake up, and one of them says that they had this weird dream, and weird is indeed the right word, where the two of them are dressed up. And so basically, as I think it's Sharon that says she was having the dream, and it cuts to what the dream was. And basically it's like the two girls are dressed in these pink dresses, and they're at Mitch and Maggie's wedding, and they're like they're getting married, and it's like that's how the movie ends. Like
Hmm.
it is such a bizarre way to close out the movie, but I guess it is what it is. Like
Well, it's
it's
supposed to
supposed to
be,
be that.
the premonition sort of
Right.
thing, but
Yeah, it's not like actually happening in real time, but it's just, yeah, that
yeah.
she saw it coming or something. And then we roll credits. And so,
Well, then there's the claymation thing comes out
oh
and it
God, yeah.
changes, right? But I thought there was no, I'm misremembering. Sorry. Go
Oh
ahead.
no, it's all right. So okay, so trivia for this movie. So some of these things will be things I've already mentioned, things Michelle has already mentioned, but the film's working titles included His and Hers, as well as Petticoats and Blue Jeans. And I do like the title Parent Trap way better, just because it is a more alluring title. Like I mean,
Hmm.
Petticoats and Blue Jeans could be about fucking anything, and same
Yep.
with His and Hers. So I do like the idea. Maureen O'Hara had to fight to get her usual salary of $75,000 for this movie after Disney only offered her roughly a third of that. Part of her contract included giving her top billing on the film, but Disney opted to give Haley Mills top billing instead, and this is cited as one of the reasons that O'Hara refused to work with Disney after this movie. I don't know how much truth there is to that, but
Right.
it's one of those things. And so the screenplay originally called for only a few trick photography shots of Haley Mills in scenes with herself, and the bulk of the movie was to be shot using the body double that they did use some. After producer Walt Disney saw how seamless the processed shots were, he ordered the script reconfigured to include more of the visual effect, with her playing both twins in the same scenes on screen at the same time. In the dance party scene, where the layer cake falls off the beak of the totem pole and drops onto Miss Inch's face, writer and director David Swift originally wanted to cut the shot of the cake when it fell because that whole thing wasn't supposed to happen. But after producer Walt Disney saw the rushes, or the dailies, or whatever they call them, he told Swift to leave the shot in, saying it would be the biggest laugh in the movie. In the shot where Mitch trips on the chair, Brian Keith fell so hard he cracked a rib but kept on doing the scene. Susan Henning took the role as Haley Mills's body double for many of the twin shots in the movie. As part of her contract, she signed away her rights to be credited. At the wrap party, Walt Disney presented her with a small statue of Donald Duck called the Duckster in recognition of the best unseen performance of the film, which is, I guess, a consolation prize. That kind of sucks, but okay. I mean, why couldn't they credit her? Like they couldn't
Yeah.
fucking credit like her just being body double. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
just
something.
something. And so this film was a major success for Disney, but a financial disaster for Haley Mills. According to her book, she had to pay taxes to the IRS on her earnings. Her father then sent the rest of her money to a broker in England where it was taxed at 91%.
Jesus.
After fees were paid, there was very little left for her. This is in addition to the fact that she receives no residuals from this movie. 16
Yikes.
years earlier, MGM released a quickly forgotten movie called Twice Blessed in 1945, whose plot was nearly identical to that of this movie. And it was also a remake, so like I didn't see when the original story was made, but I don't know if it was maybe an adaptation or not. But Haley said that her body double, Susan Henning, taught her to talk like a California girl, and boy oh boy, did she learn good.
Yeah.
So Brian Keith said that he liked the movie so much that he saw it at least 4 times and forgot that he was in it. And that was the
That
most
doesn't make
confusing bit of it doesn't make
sense,
any
yeah.
sense. It's like I mean, maybe he went to see it not realize, like, if it was under a working title name,
Oh,
and
yeah.
like he thought, he didn't realize it the first time. The film was, of course, popularly remade in 1998. Lindsay Lohan starred as the twins Hallie Parker and Annie James, and Joanne Barnes, I actually noticed,
Mhm.
does have an appearance in that movie. I don't know what part she plays. I think
She's
she plays
just-
Vicky.
Yeah, it's actually the whatever the character is
Yeah.
that is the Vicki Robinson character. It's her mother.
Oh,
It's the
okay. So
Mrs.
she's like the
Robinson.
Edna. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So on info and ratings, this one was remarkably skimpy on statistics, but no opening weekend information. Worldwide gross 25.1 million. IMDb rating 7.2. Letterboxd rating 3.4. Rotten Tomato critics score 89%. Rotten Tomato audience score 75%. And since I've been talking a lot since the plot discussion, would you like to share your personal rating for this movie?
Okay,
Michelle?
so I think I'm gonna give it 2 ratings. I'm gonna give it the 10-year-old Michelle rating would be,
Okay.
5.5 out of 5, right? Love it, love it, love it. I think as an adult, it's probably more like a 3.5, 3.75. But it's just, the hindsight and not having the nostalgia. I mean, for nostalgia purposes, it's still very highly rated for me. But
Yeah,
if I'm
I would
looking at it
agree.
more objectively,
Yeah, I mean,
that's
I obviously, so it's funny that you said that, because there's this other podcast, this movie podcast that is basically like they review movies from the VHS era called the Confused Breakfast, and there's some weird story behind that title. But anyway, they do that every episode. They will be like, okay, this is what I thought of the movie
Mhm.
when I saw it the first time when I was a little kid, and I thought it was amazing then or whatever, and now this is, then they get done talking about the movie, and that's what they talk about, is like how they feel about it now that they've watched it through adult eyes and all that stuff. And so it's kind of fun like that. But so for me, obviously this wasn't as near and dear to me. Like, this was a movie that you watched and I happened to see when we were, you were watching it as a child and I was the younger brother, and I just basically got stuck watching a lot of things you and mom were watching.
Yep.
So I would say, I mean, honestly, it's probably held pretty steady for me. It's like 3.5 out of 5. It's not like a bad movie, and it's got its funny moments. I will say my biggest hang up, and I will die on this hill, that Haley Mills is doing an accent, and it is barely even like hiding the Englishness of it all. Like, it is hardly anything. And I wish, like, that's the thing for me that like kept it from being like a 4 or better, is like if
That
there would have
took it
been
away
like
from it.
there needed to be this stark contrast of like how each girl was talking, but it was like you could barely tell the difference between either voice, so that was just my big hang up. But so that's all I got for it. Yeah, like I say, 3.5 out of 5 is where I'm at with it. I didn't hate the movie. I actually enjoyed quite a bit of it, and it's an interesting, albeit far-fetched concept for a movie, but it's still fun. It's still a good time.
Yeah, and I think the length of it is too long. Like I even
I
remember as
agree.
a kid like being like, my God, this movie is super long.
Right. And
I had to
for
watch
the
it.
type of movie it is, yeah, that's what's crazy is it's like a family Disney movie.
Yeah.
And I guess these live action ones are always longer than they seem like they need to be.
Yeah.
But
And I mean, like, I can't think of what I would remove from it. But yeah, it was pretty long. Like I had to watch it over 2 nights this week, because it was
oh yeah.
like I can't every time I would think about starting it, I'm like, I don't have 2 hours to do this right now. So I had to spread it over a couple nights. But
Oh yeah.
yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, Michelle, I appreciate you coming on. It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's always fun. I always like to choose these. So there were a few movies thrown around as ideas for what we would cover. But this one I think was the best for the most discussion. I think like there are other childhood movies that I'm sure we'll cover eventually, but I felt like
Yep.
for the moment this one was the best option for just the sheer ridiculousness of the premise and
Mm-hmm.
just how much came with it. So yeah, I really appreciate you coming on.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Well, I don't know what this is going to equate to in episode length once I edit, but 2 hours and 25 minutes is quite a lot of recording time.
Well,
So
that's what I was thinking. Like it's been a very long movie, but we had to
yeah, and I
talk
mean,
about
of
that's
course,
part of why it gets longer. But
well, and it's like, Dan and I talk about it like every time we do recordings, and usually we're doing like multiple movies or something. And it's like
mm-hmm.
we take three, like Dan always says he sets aside like 3+ hours to
Mm-hmm.
allow just in case because he knows how much of that's going to happen. So,
Yep.
yeah, I'm not surprised. All right, everyone. I guess that's all we got for today. Have a good rest of your day. Bye now.
I'm here to welcome you to Brandon at Random Review. A method when I choose. It's Brandon at Random Reviews. What you hoped you would see is half blind with hats tied, with all the dates of release for Footloose, The Dark Knight, a Kurt Russell brain freeze, Rear Windows and Gaslights. I'm Billy and your Meg, Sharon Stone, the leg spread. The part starts with the eggs, you won't stop till you're dead. I'm here to welcome you to Brandon at Random Reviews. No method when I choose. It's Brandon at Random Reviews.